Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and patch 10.2 has recently got its second new build over in the public testing realms. Being the next major Dragonflight update, patch 10.2 brings with it a ton of new features, from seasonal content like raids and dungeons, new open world activities, and a whole lot of class changes, revamps, and talent adjustments. Since the patch release, I've been diving deep into all the newest rogue changes, since my current main class is going through quite a substantial revamp. But recently, I've had the moment to step back from Rogue and explore all of the other exciting class changes arriving for all of my favorite alts for the patch 10.2. And today, I wanted to share with you some of the most impactful changes coming to some of my favorite alts within the most recent PTR build. It's also worth mentioning that this is still a work in progress. None of the class changes for 10.2 are final, and all of them could be reverted or adjusted within the very next build. But right before we get into what we have so far, most of you guys watching these videos are still not subscribed. However, the more of you remind, the more of you do, so let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell if you're watching these videos anyway, especially if you want to get more regular content regarding Dragonflight 10.2 or any of the future updates going forward. The first class worth highlighting for the early patch 10.2 is the Druid, which is getting even more value behind its hybrid capabilities. Adapted Druids preferring to play with Heart of the Wild will have a much easier time when adjusting to the balance or the Feral Shapeshift. Heart of the Wild loses out on a 10% damage within the DPS forms, but it gains additional common points passively while in cat form and a 30% casting speed inside of balance form. While it's hard to tell the impact of this change will have on overall performance, it should result in a smoother playstyle no matter the animal form you transition into. Balance Druids are seeing a few tweaks for the talent tree, which allows a bit more build variety. Part of the update includes making mushrooms more competitive by baking in the damage over time component into the base version. Wild mushrooms also compete on the same row as Orbital Strike, which has become separate ability no longer tied to Incarnation. Like before, it blasts all targets in front of you with arcane damage while applying Stellar Flare throughout all targets that it passes, which gives Boomkins a few more options when it comes to cleave and AoE damage. Like Boomkins, Ferals are also getting a few more additions within the talent tree, like Apex Predator's proc chance being higher when bleeding only a handful of targets, with the proc chance decreasing against large groups of enemies, allowing for a more consistent bite worth of procs. Speaking of bites, the talent of Saber Jaws can increase the damage of bites by an additional 80% when spending extra energy, which seems overall quite potent. Finally, Ashamane's guidance effect for Incarnation causes your Rip and Rake to increase your target's damage taken by 3% per bleed. This effect will last all the way throughout Incarnation and for 30 seconds afterwards. Like all healers, Restoration Druid is going through quite a lot of changes for the patch 10.2. This patch is looking to change the healer power structure regarding major healing cooldowns, AoE healing, as well as mana management. Early on, it is hard to judge which healing class will have an upper hand heading into the next tier, but I did want to highlight a few new benefits coming to Restoration Druid specifically. First, Restoration's Incarnation form has received an update. Along with Rejuve, Wild Growth, Regrowth, and Entangle roots, Wrath will also be empowered while shapeshifted into the Tree of Life, allowing Wraths to be instant cast and increasing their damage by 20%. Upgrading into the Cenarius' Guidance, Tree of Life also summons Grove Guardians every 10 seconds. Each Grove Guardian helps reduce the cooldown of Incarnation by 4 seconds, which is a nice new interaction which synergizes well with the newest tier set bonus. Another class seeing quality of life improvements is the Unholy Death Knight. Currently, Unholy has some of the highest single target burst damage in the game, as they summon their unholy minions to tear their foes apart, usually bolstered with externals like Power Infusion. Patch 10.2 seeks to make a few adjustments. The goal is to keep Unholy impactful within endgame content, though to make them feel a little bit less reliant on the perfect burst openers. Big button spells such as Gargoyle as well as Army of the Dead will see an obvious damage reduction, but everything else from your basic Ghoul to your Death Coil, Scourge Strike, and Festering Strike will all receive damage increases. Undeads summoned by Apocalypse will scale differently and will actually be a little bit stronger compared to the Army of the Dead counterparts. Finally, Unholy Assault no longer increases your haste, instead it simply buffs your damage by 20% flat for its full duration. This change allows them to play a little bit more consistently without having to adjust to their opener and basic rotation flow, which varies wildly with multiple haste buffs overlapping. Another class seeing an awesome change is the Hunter. Recently, we've covered Hunters briefly on this channel when we were highlighting each and every single tier set coming with the patch 10.2. So if you've seen that video, this is going to be mostly a refresher. But out of the 3 Hunter specs, Beast Mastery is getting a lot of love for the patch 10.2. The whole bottom right portion of their talent tree so far has seen barely any use before Guardians of the Dream, so now they're receiving a bit of a talented refresher. Aspect of the Wild is entirely gone, replaced with Savagery, which buffs kill command and enhances barb shot uptime, while Master Handler fuels you with more kill commands from your bleeds. Call of the Wild is now a 2-minute cooldown, which lines up better with most PvE encounters. Not only does the cooldown summon additional combat pets, but every pet summoned reduces the cooldown of barb shot and kill command. And the shorter Call of the Wild cooldown can be further upgraded to deal significantly more damage in single target, or have your summoned animal companions wildly increase your AoE damage with a passive cleave provided to your dire beasts. Besides this change, Thrill of the Hunt and Dire Command have all seen their talent point costs reduced, which allows for much better build flexibility. Next, we have the class of Priest, where I primarily want to highlight the awesome changes coming to the healing spec of Discipline. Like all other healers, Priests are also going through quite a power adjustment. The class specifically is losing some of their support power with a haste reduction as well as duration decreases from power infusion. And Master Spell cooldown is increased to 2 minutes, which will affect Priest utility come patch 10.2. But besides this power shuffle, Disc in particular looks like it's getting quite a bit of an improvement. One of the goals for Disc going forward is to help simplify their damage rotation and help reduce some of the ramp up required to output efficient burst healing. The end product should be a smoother playstyle that allows players to focus on managing their atonements. First, the talent of Schism is being baked directly into Mind Blast, where Mind Blast severs your target, causing them to take additional damage. Shadow Covenant is now a passive that activates automatically when summoning your Shadow Fiend or Mind Bender, which transforms your Halo, Divine Star, and Penance into Shadow versions, while increasing the damage and healing of Shadow spells by 25%. The talent of Sanctuary allows you to focus on offensive power, where Smites help reduce enemy damage for half the damage of a Smite. Then we have the massive new addition of Ultimate Penitence, where Priest ascends into the air to unleash a barrage of penance bolts against all targets. While ascended, you get a shield for a portion of your maximum health, and are unaffected by knockback or crowd control effects. Heaven's Wrath causes penance bolts to help reduce the cooldown of this massive 4-minute effect by 2 seconds per bolt, which feels kind of mandatory. Overloaded with Light causes penitence to emit an explosion of light, healing up to 10 allies around you while applying atonement on them at 50% normal duration. And altogether, with what seems like a new powerful tier set bonus, Discipline Priest looks like a well put together package when it comes to picking your healers for the patch 10.2. And of course, the class of Rogue should also be mentioned on this list, but we've recently taken a much closer look at everything that Rogues are getting for 10.2. If you want to see the full detailed video, I have it linked down in the description below so you can check it out for yourselves, as the list of Rogue changes was big enough to have a dedicated video all on its own. And so far, the Warrior changes have been quite light over on the PTR, but this week, Arms Warriors are getting a new adjustment to the talent of Skull Splitter. Normally, Skull Splitter causes your bleeds to expire instantly, which is both incredibly bursty, but also results in some awkwardness when it comes to reapplying your bleeds immediately. The new change to Skull Splitter allows bleeds to still expire more quickly, just not instantly, which allows you to retain the bursty element without forcing you to panic rebleed all of your targets within a handful of globals. Next, we have a few new PvP specific class changes arriving so far for the 10.2. Currently, this list of changes is a bit light, but I did want to highlight some of the newer additions that are present within the first few PTR builds. Restoration Druids are getting a talent of Call of the Elder Druid, which allows them to play more into their hybrid capabilities. Shapeshifting into a combat form grants them Heart of the Wild for 15 seconds, which lets them enhance their out-of-role abilities, possibly helping their team establish additional pressure and help set up for a kill. Next, we have Hunter, which is seeing a change to their survival tactics. where Feign Death damage reduction is now active for 3 seconds, but it seems that the self-cleanse component of this talent may have been entirely removed. Next, Affliction Warlocks are getting a new PvP talent called Jinx. With Jinx, curses now also apply your corruption and agony automatically to the enemy target, but each curse will now cost a soul shard, which allows for an interesting trade-off that uses soul shards in a different way. Next, we have Warriors, which are set to get a few new options, starting with Safeguard, which gives Intervene 2 charges and reduces the allies' damage taken by 20% when rushing to their aid, which essentially makes Intervene less punishing for the warrior to use. Next, we have the Battlefield Commander, which alters your shout with additional effects, where Commanding Shout increases your allies' stamina by 3%. Pierce and Howl now roots enemy targets for 2 seconds. Berserker Shout range is increased by 8 yards. Intimidating Shout cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds. Rallying Cry now removes all movement impairing effects from your allies and grants them 30% more mobility. And Thunderous Roar causes the targets to take 5% more damage while the bleed is still active. Lastly, we have Storm of Destruction, which reduces the cooldown of Blade Storm or Ravager by 30%, where both of these abilities also snare all targets by 70% for 8 seconds, making it more difficult for enemies to evade your damaging cooldowns. I want to thank all of you so much for watching this video and hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video or hang out with the rest of the community to discuss some of the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.